The night of my 32nd birthday, they ripped the cake from my hands like I was a stranger at my own party. When tears escaped, my stepfather's fist found my shoulder, sending me stumbling across the restaurant's polished floor. Everyone watched. Nobody moved. They thought I'd stay silent like I had for 20 years, but this year, I brought evidence, a lawyer, and a different cake entirely. My name is Madison Clark, though everyone calls me Maddie, and until that night at Vincenzo's, I'd convinced myself that surviving was enough. The Italian restaurant glowed amber warm against Portland's February drizzle, its windows fogged with heat from the wood-fired ovens. I'd chosen it myself, my one act of defiance in planning this dinner, because their tiramisu cake was legendary, and for once, I wanted something beautiful that was just mine. The server, a young woman with kind eyes, carried out the cake like it was precious cargo. "Happy 32nd, Maddie." Scrolled across the dark chocolate in delicate script, 32 candles flickered like tiny promises. The smell of burnt sugar and espresso filled the space between us, and for 3 seconds, maybe 4, I felt the weight of 2 decades lift from my shoulders. Then my mother Lila's voice cut through the moment like glass. "Dylan needs to get this for his TikTok past the cake over here, sweetheart." Her manicured nails were already reaching, wine-flushed face animated with that false cheerfulness she wore like armor. My stepbrother Dylan had his phone out, LED ring light turning his face ghostly. "Yeah, come on. Mad, don't be selfish." My hands stayed on the cake plate. "It's my birthday cake. I'd like to blow out my candles first." That's when Roy's hand clamped down on my wrist. Not hard enough to leave marks that would show he'd perfected that over the years, but firm enough to make his point. His contractor's calluses scraped against my skin as he leaned in, breath hot with whiskey. "The person paying decides how this goes," he said, loud enough for neighboring tables to hear. "And last I checked, your mother and I covered this dinner." The truth was, I'd tried to pay, had my credit card ready when I made the reservation, but Lila had insisted, made it seem like a peace offering, a sign they were finally treating me like an adult. I should have known better. Roy's free hand swept across the cake, plucking candles out one by one, each tiny flame dying with a whispered hiss. "There. Now it's just a cake." He grabbed the plate and slid it down the table toward Dylan, who was already filming, narrating in his influencer voice about family drama at dinner. The tears came before I could stop them. Hot, humiliating, the kind that made my mascara run in black rivers. My throat closed around words I'd swallowed for 20 years. Jesus Christ. Maddie. Roy's chair scraped against the floor as he stood, 32 years old and crying over cake like a toddler. "Please," I whispered. "Just once. Let me have—" The blow came disguised as a lesson. His palm connected with my shoulder, then his hands shoved against my chest, what he'd call straightening me up if anyone asked. But the force sent me stumbling backward, my hip catching the edge of another table. Silverware clattered, a water glass tipped, ice sliding across white tablecloth like scattered diamonds. The restaurant fell silent except for the soft Italian music playing overhead. A phone camera flash went off, not Dylan's. Someone else had seen. I stood there, dress soaked with spilled water, everyone staring. The server who'd brought the cake pressed herself against the wall, eyes wide. An elderly couple 2 tables over deliberately looked away. The manager hovered by the kitchen door, calculating whether intervention was worth the scene. Roy straightened his collar, the picture of a reasonable man dealing with a difficult woman. "Pull yourself together. You're embarrassing your mother." But when I looked at my mother, she was studying her wine glass like it held the secrets of the universe. No help coming from that direction. Never had been. My best friend Paige appeared beside me. I hadn't even seen her arrive for the dinner. Her arm wrapped around my shoulders, steady and sure. "Come on," she murmured. "Let's get you cleaned up." As she guided me toward the restroom, the restaurant owner, Mrs. Francetti, intercepted us. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "The security cameras caught everything. If you need it, the footage is yours." In the bathroom's harsh fluorescent light, I stared at my reflection-smeared makeup, water-stained dress, the same scared girl I'd been at 12 when Roy first entered our lives. But something had shifted. Maybe it was the stranger with the camera phone. Maybe it was Mrs. Francetti's quiet offer. Maybe it was just 20 years of birthdays finally adding up to enough. "No more," I said to my reflection. Then, louder to Paige, "No more stolen birthdays." Behind us, through the door, I could hear Dylan's laughter, Roy's booming voice calling for another round, my mother's nervous giggle. They were already rewriting the story, turning it into an anecdote about oversensitive Maddie who couldn't take a joke. But this time, there was footage. This time, there were witnesses. This time, I would take my cake back. The first time Roy stole my birthday, I was 12. Mom had been dating him for 3 months, long enough for him to charm her with his contractor's confidence and weekend boat trips. Not long enough for him to drop the mask completely. We'd planned a small party at the roller rink, just me and 5 friends from 7th grade. I'd saved babysitting money for 2 months to pay for everyone's admission. The morning of, Roy announced we were going to his son Dylan's baseball game instead. "Family comes first," he said, ruffling my hair with hands that smelled like sawdust and cigarettes. Mom echoed him like a trained bird. "Family comes first? Sweetie?" I spent my 13th birthday in a dugout in the August heat, watching a 4-year-old Dylan strike out 3 times while Roy screamed at the coach. My friends went to the roller rink without me. By Monday, I was the girl who'd stood everyone up for her new stepdad's kid. The pattern locked into place like one of Roy's construction blueprints. Every celebration, every milestone, he'd find a way to make it about control. Sweet 16. He gave my party dress to Goodwill the night before because the neckline was inappropriate, leaving me to wear one of Mom's outdated church dresses. High school graduation. He scheduled a mandatory family vacation that started at 5 a.m. Home, making me miss the senior breakfast where they gave out the special awards. I'd won 3, but never got to accept them. The smaller cuts were almost worse. The Christmas when he regifted my presents to Dylan because I'd been ungrateful about doing extra chores. The Thanksgiving he locked the pantry because I was getting chubby and needed to learn restraint. The weekly inspections of my room where he'd trash anything he deemed excessive, which meant any poster, any journal, any piece of myself I tried to keep. Mom developed her own vocabulary for it all. "Roy just wants what's best for you. You know how he gets when he's stressed about work." And her favorite, delivered with a martyred sigh. "Family comes first." I started documenting things in college, though I didn't realize that's what I was doing. Just keeping receipts, taking photos of my few possessions before they could disappear, writing dates in a planner. May 15th, Roy threw out my art supplies because adults don't waste time finger painting. October 3rd, changed the locks while I was at class because I'd missed Sunday dinner for a study group. December 21st, gave my childhood ornaments to Dylan's girlfriend because "You're too old for that sentimental crap." Dylan grew into Roy's perfect shadow. By the time he hit high school, he'd learned that mocking me earned Dad's approval. He'd film me at my worst moments crying after Roy's tirades, flinching when voices got loud, the anxiety attacks that started hitting in my 20s. "For the memories," he'd say, already uploading them to whatever platform was trending, making my pain into content, turning trauma into entertainment for strangers who'd comment about what a drama queen I was. The videos became their favorite weapon, edited, cropped, voiced over with Dylan's commentary about his crazy stepsister. No context for why I was crying. No explanation of what happened right before the camera started rolling. Just me, looking unstable, unreasonable. Everything they said I was. I tried leaving once, when I was 25. Moved in with a boyfriend. Thought distance would fix everything. But Roy knew exactly how to reel me back. He had Mom call, sobbing about her heart problems, which turned out to be anxiety he'd caused. He showed up at my job with flowers and apologies, playing the concerned father for my coworkers. He sent Dylan to film my apartment building at 2 a.m., calling it checking on family. The boyfriend lasted 3 months before deciding I had too much drama. So I came back, moved into their finished basement, paid them rent that was somehow always just enough to keep me from saving for my own place, learned to make myself small, quiet, invisible, learned to expect nothing, celebrate nothing, want nothing. But trauma's funny. It accumulates like compound interest. Each small cruelty adds to the last until one day you're drowning in debt you never agreed to. 20 years of stolen birthdays, crushed dreams, and public humiliations. 20 years of family comes first, while being treated like an unwanted stranger in my own home. The shift started 3 months before that night at Vincenzo's. I'd found a therapist through my company's employee assistance program, hidden the appointments as dentist visits on my calendar. She had this way of stating things plainly that made me feel less crazy. "That's abuse," she'd say. "Not a question, not a suggestion, just fact. Adults hitting other adults is assault. Parents stealing from their children is theft. What you're describing isn't family dysfunction, it's a crime." She gave me homework. Start documenting everything with dates and details. Keep copies of important documents somewhere safe. Build a support network outside the family. Small steps toward eventually getting free. I hadn't planned for it to happen on my birthday, but sitting in that restaurant bathroom, water still dripping from my dress, Paige holding paper towels to my face, I realized, if not now, when, how many more birthdays would I let them steal? How many more years before I was 40, 50, still flinching when Roy raised his voice, still watching my mother choose him over me, still being Dylan's favorite punching bag for internet views. I have 20 years of evidence, I told Paige, my voice steady for the first time that night. And now I have witnesses. Paige didn't let me go home that night. She drove us straight to the Portland Police Bureau's Central Precinct, her Honda Civic cutting through the rain while I shivered in the passenger seat, still damp from the spilled water. The building loomed gray against the night sky, all concrete and authority, and for a moment I almost asked her to turn around. "You're not backing out," she said, reading my face. "Not this time." The intake officer looked tired until I said the word assault. Then her posture changed, fingers moving faster across her keyboard. "We'll need to file a report. Officer Morales can see you now." Officer Jenna Morales had the kind of face that had seen everything and still managed to care. She took us to a small interview room that smelled like coffee and disinfectant, pulled out forms, and said, "Tell me what happened tonight. Take your time." I didn't take my time. 20 years of silence broke like a dam. The birthday cake, the shove, the cameras, but also the decades before the control, the theft, the systematic destruction of my sense of self. Paige pulled up Dylan's TikTok on her phone, showing the officer video after video of my humiliation, edited and monetized. "This one's from Christmas," Paige said, swiping through. He filmed her having a panic attack after Roy threw out her presents. 16,000 views. Officer Morales took notes in careful handwriting. "The restaurant has security footage. The owner said she'd save it for us. Good. We'll subpoena that tomorrow. Tonight. I can help you file for an emergency protection order. Given the physical assault and pattern of abuse, a judge will likely grant it immediately." The words protection order felt foreign in my mouth, like speaking a new language. What does that mean exactly? It means Roy Bennett can't come within 500 feet of you, your home, or workplace. No contact, no calls, texts, emails, nothing. Violation is a crime. She leaned forward. "But I need to be clear, these orders are just paper. They work on people who respect consequences. From what you're describing, Mr. Bennett might escalate. Do you have somewhere safe to stay?" "My apartment," Paige said immediately. "She's staying with me." While Officer Morales prepared the paperwork, she mentioned something that changed everything: assault between family members. When there's a pattern like this, it's not just a misdemeanor. With the right evidence, the DA might pursue felony charges, especially with the financial abuse you're describing. Has he ever misused your personal information? Opened accounts in your name? I thought about the credit card I'd discovered last year, maxed out in my name for Roy's business expenses. The loan he'd had Mom convince me to co-sign. The savings account he'd drained when I was 18, claiming it was for household expenses. Yes, I said quietly. All of that. Morales exchanged a look with Paige. You need more than just police help. You need a lawyer. That's when Paige revealed what she'd been working on while I was falling apart in the bathroom. I've been doing research on Bennett Homeworks, she said, pulling out her laptop. Roy's not just an abusive asshole, he's a criminal. Look. The screen showed complaint after complaint. OSHA violations for unsafe working conditions. Better Business Bureau reports about unfinished jobs and stolen deposits. Labor Board complaints from workers paid under the table. No workers' comp, no insurance. This one's from 3 months ago. Paige pointed to a review. Customer paid $20,000 up front for a bathroom remodel. Roy demolished everything, then disappeared. She's elderly, living without a functioning bathroom. Officer Morales studied the screen. This is beyond my scope, but there's someone you should talk to. Nate O'Hara at the Oregonian. He covers consumer protection and contractor fraud. If even half of this is true, Roy's got bigger problems than a restraining order. It was past midnight when we finally left the station. Protection order paperwork in hand, court date set for the following week. Mrs. Francetti had already emailed the restaurant footage to Officer Morales. 3 separate customers had come forward as witnesses. The case was building itself. In Paige's apartment, surrounded by her cheerful chaos of houseplants and art prints. I finally felt my body unclench. She made tea while I sat on her couch, still processing. You know what the weirdest part is, I said. I'm not scared. I should be terrified Roy's going to lose his mind when he gets served, but I just feel clear, like I finally know what to do. Paige sat beside me, tucking her legs under herself. That's because you're not 12 anymore. Maddie, you're not alone, you're not powerless, and you're not wrong. He's been committing crimes for decades. Financial fraud, assault, theft, and that's just what we can prove so far. I thought about my mother, probably home now, helping Roy spin the story into something palatable. Poor Maddie, so emotional. Can't take a joke, always making scenes. But the cameras didn't lie. The witnesses didn't lie. The paper trail of Roy's crimes didn't lie. I want to destroy him, I said, surprising myself with the venom in my voice. Not just get away from him. I want him to pay for every birthday he stole, every dream he crushed, every moment he made me feel worthless. Is that wrong? Paige grabbed my hand, fierce loyalty blazing in her eyes. No, it's justice, and we're going to make it happen. That night, lying on Paige's pull-out couch, I made a list, not a victim's list of grievances, but a prosecutor's list of evidence. Bank statements, text messages, Dylan's videos with timestamps, the credit fraud, the worker complaints, 20 years of ammunition I didn't know I'd been collecting. At the top of the page, I wrote birthday redo plan because I wasn't just going to take my power back. I was going to take everything, his reputation, his business, his freedom if possible. And I was going to do it all legally, publicly, and on my own terms. Roy Bennett thought he'd broken me. He was about to learn he'd only been teaching me how to fight. The investigation started with a spreadsheet. 3 days after the restaurant incident, I sat at Paige's kitchen table with my laptop, building what I called the Bennett Homeworks Accountability Database. Every complaint, every violation, every red flag got its own row with dates, names, and documentation. My event planning skills, the ones Roy always mocked as party throwing, turned out to be perfect for organizing evidence. The first break came from Carlos Mendez, a former Bennett Homeworks employee who responded to my carefully worded Facebook message. We met at a coffee shop in Southeast Portland, him nervous until I showed him the protection order, proving Roy couldn't retaliate through me anymore. 18 months I worked for him, Carlos said, gripping his coffee cup. No contract, no workers' comp, cash under the table every Friday. When I fell off a ladder because he cheaped out on safety equipment, broke my wrist, he fired me on the spot, said I was clumsy, threatened to report me to ICE if I filed for compensation. "You're documented," I asked. Born in Gresham. But Roy didn't care about truth, just fear. Carlos had photos job sites with exposed wiring, missing railings, improper scaffolding. He had text messages of Roy instructing workers to use substandard materials while billing clients for premium. He had names of 12 other workers with similar stories. The second break was pure luck. While researching Bennett Homeworks licensing, I discovered Roy's contractor's license had expired 8 months ago. Every job he'd taken since then was illegal. Every contract was fraudulent. Every customer had grounds to sue. I called Nate O'Hara at the Oregonian from Paige's bedroom, door closed, hands shaking. His voice was gravelly, skeptical at first. "Another contractor complaint. We get dozens. I have OSHA violations, wage theft, fraud, expired licensing, and assault charges," I interrupted, "plus video evidence and 15 workers ready to talk." The pause stretched long enough that I thought he'd hung up. Then, "Can you meet tomorrow at 10 a.m.?" The Oregonian's offices smelled like burnt coffee and deadline anxiety. Nate looked exactly like an investigative journalist should, rumpled shirt, sharp eyes, notebook already half full. I spread my evidence across his conference table like dealing cards, financial records, Carlos's photos, screenshots of Dylan's videos showing Roy at job sites that corresponded with complaint dates. "This is..." Nate flipped through pages. "Incredibly thorough. You sure you're not a paralegal?" "Event planner. I'm good at timelines and logistics." He pulled up Bennett Homeworks' website on his laptop, cross-referencing their completed projects page with my complaint list. 3 of these addresses match ongoing lawsuits. "Did you know about the Riverside elderly community issue?" I shook my head. 6 months ago, your stepfather contracted to renovate 15 units in a senior living facility, took $150,000 up front, started demolition, then claimed he needed another $100,000 for unexpected complications. When they refused, he walked off the job. 15 elderly residents have been living in construction zones since August. My stomach turned. I didn't know about that one. It gets worse. He's been using his business to launder money through inflated material costs, then pocketing the difference. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit has been building a case, but they needed someone on the inside to confirm patterns. I'm not on the inside. He kicked me out years ago. But you have 20 years of observation. You know his patterns, his tactics, how he hides things. That protection order doesn't just protect you, it makes you a perfect witness. He can't intimidate you without adding charges. Nate made calls while I sat there, each one adding another layer to the investigation. OSHA confirmed they'd received multiple complaints but hadn't had resources to pursue them until now. The contractor's licensing board revealed Roy had been operating on expired credentials in 3 states. The Department of Labor was very interested in Carlos's documentation. "Here's what I propose," Nate said finally. "I'll publish a series. Part 1 focuses on the worker exploitation wage theft, safety violations, threatening undocumented workers. Part 2 covers the consumer fraud elderly victims, stolen deposits, substandard work. Part 3. He smiled grimly. "That's where we hit the expired license and potential money laundering. Each article builds pressure for official action. When first piece runs Monday if I can verify everything this weekend. But I need you to understand once this starts, Roy will know you're involved. Your name won't be in print, but he's not stupid. The timing with your protection order, the detail level he'll connect the dots." I thought about 20 years of birthdays, 20 years of being small, quiet, forgotten. Good, I want him to know. That afternoon, Dylan made his first mistake. He showed up at North Star Creative Lab, my workplace, camera rolling, narrating about visiting my crazy stepsister at her joke job. Security stopped him at the lobby. but not before he'd live-streamed himself threatening to expose what a fraud she is and show everyone what a lying bitch looks like. I downloaded the stream before he could delete it, adding it to my evidence folder, threatening a witness in an active investigation that was a new charge for the list. By evening, I had what Nate called a prosecutor's wet dream financial records showing Roy had my mother deposit checks made out to Bennett Homeworks into her personal account to avoid business taxes. Photos from Carlos showing Roy's truck at job sites during the exact times he'd claimed to be unable to work due to injury for an insurance claim. A paper trail of fake receipts for materials never purchased, bills for work never completed. "This isn't just fraud," Paige said, reading over my shoulder. "This is racketeering." My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Whatever you think you're doing, stop. You're going to destroy our family." I texted back, "Roy destroyed our family 20 years ago. I'm just documenting it." Then I blocked her number. After 2 decades of family comes first, I was finally putting justice first, instead. The idea came to me at 3:15 on a sleepless Tuesday, 2 weeks after the restaurant incident. I was scrolling through event venues on my phone force of habit from work when I recognized one Laurelhurst Community Center. I'd managed events there for 2 years, knew every corner, every entrance, every sightline. The director, Janet, still owed me a favor from when I'd saved her daughter's wedding from a catering disaster. "A birthday redo," I told Paige over breakfast, the plan crystallizing as I spoke. "A family gathering to clear the air and move forward. Roy won't be able to resist if he thinks I'm apologizing, trying to make peace before the court date." "That's insane. Your protection order allows for mediated meetings in neutral locations with proper security present." I checked with Officer Morales. "If Roy agrees to come, if we have security there, it's legal." Paige set down her coffee slowly. "You want to trap him?" "I want to give him exactly what he's always given me, a public humiliation he can't edit, can't spin, can't escape." The invitation took 3 drafts to perfect. Cream cardstock, professional printing, the kind of thing that suggested class and reconciliation. The Clark Bennett Family Gathering, a celebration of moving forward. Saturday, March 15th, 7 p.m., Laurelhurst Community Center. Light refreshments and birthday cake will be served. At the bottom, in smaller text, "This gathering will be documented for family archives." I mailed them on a Wednesday. Roy's ego wouldn't let him refuse what looked like my surrender. While waiting for responses, I orchestrated the second part of the plan. Through Nate, I'd learned OSHA had been trying to inspect Bennett Homeworks' warehouse for 6 months, always warned off by Roy's mysterious ability to know when they were coming. Someone at the department was clearly tipping him off. What if they had a reason to show up at exactly 7 p.m. on Saturday? I asked Nate, anonymous tip about workers doing illegal weekend work. That's actually brilliant. He can't be in 2 places at once. The warehouse was 45 minutes from Laurelhurst. Even if Roy got word of the inspection, he'd have to choose Miss My apology, or let OSHA discover whatever he was hiding in that warehouse. His pride would make him choose me. His business would suffer for it. Janet at Laurelhurst was more than accommodating when I explained the situation. "Honey, I watched that man scream at you for forgetting napkins at a charity event. Whatever you need, you've got it." I booked the main hall, the one with the built-in projection system and the small stage. Told her I needed full audio-visual capabilities for a presentation about family healing. She gave me the security code for the media booth, the one that controlled everything from lights to sound to the massive screen that covered the entire back wall. Paige helped with the technical setup. We tested the CCTV footage from Vincenzo's, made sure it would play crystal clear on that giant screen. Added the audio from Dylan's workplace threat, created a slideshow of documentation, every violation, every complaint, every forged receipt, set it all to autoplay with a remote trigger I could activate from anywhere in the room. "You need witnesses," Paige said, "not just family." So I invited others, carefully, strategically. The 3 elderly residents from Riverside whose bathrooms Roy had destroyed told them there might be a resolution to their situation. Carlos and 4 other former workers mentioned potential compensation discussion. Mrs. Francetti from the restaurant framed as moral support. Even reached out to 3 of Roy's dissatisfied customers from the BBB complaints, suggesting they might want to attend a accountability meeting. Officer Morales agreed to be present in plain clothes. "Not official capacity," she said carefully, "but if anything happens, I'll be there." Nate would live stream from the Oregonian's Facebook page. Local contractor faces families he's wronged, though Roy wouldn't know until it was too late. The cake was the final touch. 3 tiers, pristine white frosting, elegant piping. But instead of "Happy Birthday," I had them write "The Truth" in delicate script across the top. 32 candles, 1 for each year of my life, arranged in a perfect circle. My mother called 6 times, left voicemails that progressed from confused to angry to pleading. "Maddie, whatever you're planning, please don't. Roy's trying to change. This court thing has been a wake-up call. Come home and we'll talk. Just family. Just family." The phrase that had trapped me for 2 decades. Dylan posted about it on social media, trying to get ahead of the narrative. Stepsister planning some weird revenge party. So cringe. "We're going to shut it down with love and facts. See you all there?" Perfect. He was bringing his own audience to witness what was coming. 3 days before the event, I walked through Laurelhurst one more time, visualizing every moment. Roy would arrive fashionably late, expecting to find me contrite and manageable. He'd see the cake and think he'd won again, that I was offering it up as an apology. He'd want to make a speech about forgiveness and family, to publicly accept my surrender. I stood on the small stage, looking out at the empty chairs I'd arrange in a horseshoe pattern, no easy escape routes, every seat facing the screen. The lights could be controlled to spotlight whoever was speaking. The doors could be secured from inside once everyone arrived. "It's not too late to back out," Paige said from behind me, though her tone suggested she didn't mean it. 20 years too late to back out, I corrected. This ends where it began, with a birthday cake and witnesses. Except this time, I'm writing the ending. I had one more card to play. In my bag was a manila envelope, copies of every document Nate had gathered, every piece of evidence the FBI Financial Crimes Unit was building. If Roy tried to run, if he tried to flip the script, I'd hand them out to everyone present. Let him try to explain money laundering to the elderly people he'd scammed. Saturday was 3 days away. 3 days until my real 32nd birthday party. The one where I finally got to blow out my own candles. The final preparations began Thursday morning. I sat in the office of Sandra Corbin, a pro bono lawyer Nate had connected me with, signing papers that would change everything. "This letter formally notifies your mother that you're withdrawing as co-signer from all Bennett Homeworks affiliated loans," Sandra explained, sliding documents across her desk. "This one demands immediate repayment of the $23,000 in fraudulent charges made on credit cards opened in your name. And this one," she smiled slightly, "this puts her on notice that if she continues to enable Roy's financial crimes, she becomes legally liable as an accomplice." "She'll panic," I said, pen hovering over the signature line. "Good. Panicked people make mistakes. They talk when they shouldn't. Save documents they should destroy. Create evidence trails." Sandra leaned forward. "Your mother has been depositing checks made out to Bennett Homeworks into her personal account for 3 years. That's bank fraud, money laundering. She's looking at federal charges unless she cooperates." I signed every document, each signature feeling like shedding skin. The letters would be delivered by courier Friday at 4 p.m., 27 hours before the party. Enough time for Mom to spiral, to call Roy in hysterics, to disrupt whatever preparation he might be doing for Saturday. Chaos was my friend now. That afternoon, I sent carefully worded emails to 14 of Bennett Homeworks' current clients, the ones with active projects. Professional, concerned. Just a helpful heads up. "Dear homeowner, You may want to verify that your contractor's license and insurance are current before making any additional payments. The Oregon Construction Contractors Board website offers free verification services. Recent investigations have revealed numerous unlicensed operators in the Portland area. Best regards, a concerned community member. No accusations, no names, just enough to make them check. Roy's expired license would do the rest. By Friday morning, my phone was exploding with texts from unknown numbers, clearly Roy using other people's phones to circumvent the protection order. I screenshot each one, adding them to my evidence file. Witness intimidation, violation of a protective order. The charges kept stacking. Mom showed up at Paige's apartment that afternoon, mascara streaked, designer handbag clutched like armor. "I can't reach you on your phone," she said when Paige reluctantly let her in. "I blocked you. Roy can't contact me, and you're his messenger. That's called third-party contact, also illegal." She sank onto the couch, suddenly looking all of her 52 years. The lawyer's letter? "Maddie, you could destroy us. The house is in my name. If the FBI investigates, I could lose everything. You chose everything over me 20 years ago. Why should I protect you now? Because I'm your mother." The words hung between us, sharp as glass. I sat across from her, maintaining distance. A mother would have stopped him the first time he locked me in the basement for crying. A mother would have chosen her 12-year-old daughter over her boyfriend's comfort. A mother wouldn't have spent 20 years telling me that family comes first while treating me like I wasn't family at all. "You don't understand what it was like," she whispered. "Single mother, no money, no prospects. Roy offered security. Roy offered control, and you paid for it with me." I pulled out my phone, showing her one of Dylan's videos. "This is from my 25th birthday. Remember Roy accidentally knocked my cake onto the floor, and Dylan filmed me crying while you laughed. 13,000 views. Your daughter's pain is entertainment, and you laughed." She flinched. "If I leave him now, I'll have nothing." "You'll have your freedom. That's more than you ever gave me." I pulled out a single document from my folder. "Sign this. It states you were unaware of Roy's fraudulent use of your bank accounts, that you were coerced into participating, that you'll cooperate fully with authorities." Sandra drew it up. "It's your get-out-of-jail-free card. Literally." Her hands shook as she read. "What about Roy?" "Roy made his choices. You're making yours. Right now." She signed it, tears dropping onto the paper. "The party tomorrow. Come or don't come, but if you warn him about anything, the OSHA raid, the live stream, any of it, this immunity deal disappears. You'll face the same charges he does." After she left, Paige found me sitting on the bathroom floor, finally letting myself shake. "That was the hardest thing you've ever done, wasn't it?" she asked, sliding down beside me. "No," I said. "The hardest thing was surviving 20 years of it. This is just the cleanup." That evening, I stood in my old event planning office at North Star Creative Lab, after hours, printing the final materials for tomorrow. Copies of Roy's expired license, screenshots of violations, bank statements showing fraud, a timeline of 20 years of abuse, documented and verified. My boss Marcus found me there. Big event tomorrow. The biggest of my life. He studied the materials spread across my desk. "Is this why you've been so different lately?" Stronger. "I'm not different. I'm just done pretending to be less than I am." He nodded slowly. "Whatever you're doing tomorrow, you have North Star's full support. If you need references for the police, lawyers, whatever, we've got your back." The last piece fell into place at 10 p.m. Nate called with news that made me sit down hard in Paige's kitchen. The FBI moved up their timeline. They're raiding Bennett Homework's office tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. They'll have everything: computers, files, financial records before your party even starts. But Roy will probably be released by afternoon, pending formal charges. He'll show up to your party desperate, angry, and completely unaware that his empire has already fallen. It's perfect. I hung up and looked at the cake sitting in Paige's refrigerator. Perfect white frosting. The truth, in delicate script. 32 candles waiting to be lit. Tomorrow, I'd finally get to make a wish on my own birthday cake, and I knew exactly what I'd wish for: that Roy Bennett would finally, publicly, irrevocably face the consequences of 20 years of crimes. The setup was complete. The players were in position. The evidence was ironclad. Time for the final act. Saturday arrived wrapped in Portland's typical March drizzle. I stood in Laurelhurst Community Center at 6 p.m., 1 hour before showtime, arranging chairs with mathematical precision. The projection screen dominated the room, currently displaying a neutral blue. The cake sat on a table at the front, spotlit like an artwork. Officer Morales checked sightlines from her position by the side door. Remote works from anywhere in the room. Page confirmed from the media booth. Just click once. The first guests arrived at 6:45, Mrs. Chen, Mrs. Patterson, and Mr. Ito from Riverside Senior Living, each owed thousands by Roy. They looked fragile but determined, walkers and canes clicking against the linoleum. Carlos and 4 other workers entered next, uncomfortable in their best clothes. Mrs. Francetti from Vincenzo's brought her husband and the 2 servers who'd witnessed everything. By 6:55, 37 people filled the horseshoe of chairs. Nate sat in the back corner, laptop open, live stream ready but not yet active. The room hummed with confused energy, nobody quite sure why they were here, but all sensing something momentous approaching. At 7:02, the double doors burst open. Roy entered first, his face already red with whatever fury the FBI raid had left him with. His polo shirt was wrinkled, unusual for a man who treated appearance as warfare. Dylan followed, phone already recording, narrating in his influencer voice, "About to witness some crazy family drama. Guys, like and subscribe." Mom trailed behind them, designer heels clicking uncertainty. She caught my eye once, then looked away. "Madison." Roy's voice filled the room like smoke. "This stops now, whatever little game you're playing. Welcome to my birthday redo." I interrupted, standing but not approaching. Officer Morales shifted slightly. "Ready. Please, have a seat. We have a lot to discuss." "I don't have to listen to actually." "You do." I held up the legal document. "You agreed to this mediated family meeting when you responded to the invitation. Leaving now would violate the terms you accepted." It was a bluff. The invitation carried no legal weight, but Roy didn't know that. He sat, Dylan beside him still filming, Mom perching on the edge of her chair like a bird ready to flee. "Since everyone's here," I began, moving to stand by the cake, "let me explain what this really is. 3 weeks ago, on my 32nd birthday, my stepfather assaulted me in a public restaurant because I wanted to blow out my own birthday candles. Some of you witnessed it. Others have experienced Roy Bennett's violence in different ways." "This is ridiculous!" Roy started to stand. That's when I clicked the remote. The projection screen blazed to life with CCTV footage from Vincenzo's. Crystal clear, no audio needed. Roy grabbing my wrist, pulling candles from my cake. The shove that sent me stumbling. My tears. The water spilling. Every second of humiliation in high definition. 10 feet tall. The room went silent except for Dylan's nervous laugh dying in his throat. "That's assault," I said conversationally. "Now, let's talk about fraud." Click. Roy's expired contractor license filled the screen. Click. OSHA violations with photographs exposed wiring, missing safety equipment, the latter Carlos fell from. Click. Bank statements showing deposits to Mom's personal account. Click. Fake receipts for materials never purchased. The elderly residents were leaning forward now, recognizing their addresses on the violation list. The workers were nodding, seeing their own experiences documented. "Dylan, you're still filming, right?" I asked sweetly. "Good. Your followers should see this next part." Click. Dylan's threatening video from my workplace. His voice filled the room. "Show everyone what a lying bitch looks like." Several people gasped. Mrs. Patterson clutched her pearls. "That's witness intimidation," Officer Morales said clearly from her position. "Also a crime." Roy lunged to his feet, face purple. "You set this up, you little— Sit down, Mr. Bennett." Officer Morales stepped forward, hand resting on her radio. "You're already in violation of a protection order by threatening gestures toward Ms. Clark." Protection order. Dylan lowered his phone, finally understanding this wasn't going his way. "Dad, what?" "Oh, he didn't tell you." I pulled out my phone, reading from the official document. "Roy Bennett is legally barred from coming within 500 feet of me. This mediated meeting is an exception, contingent on civil behavior. One more threatening move and it's revoked." Nate's voice cut through. "We're live, by the way. 800 viewers and climbing." Roy spun toward him. "You can't— Freedom of the press," Nate said calmly. "Public meeting. Matter of public interest. Perfectly legal." That's when Roy's phone rang. He answered on speaker by accident, and OSHA Inspector Catherine Wells' voice filled the room. "Mr. Bennett, we're at your warehouse. You need to explain why we've found $40,000 of stolen construction equipment and materials registered to other contractors." The blood drained from Roy's face. He hung up, turned toward the door, but found Carlos and 3 other workers standing in his path. "Our wages," Carlos said simply. 3 years of overtime never paid. $43,000 between us. "Plus my bathroom," Mrs. Chin added, Walker steady as she stood. $20,000. $15,000, Mrs. Patterson said. $18,000, Mr. Ito added. Every victim stood, stating their number. The sum grew astronomical. Nate was typing furiously, live stream comments scrolling past too fast to read. Roy turned to Mom, desperate. "Lila, tell them I signed an immunity deal," Mom said quietly. "I'm cooperating with authorities." The moment broke him. The big man who'd terrorized me for 20 years suddenly looked small, old, defeated. But I wasn't done. I walked to the cake, lit all 32 candles with steady hands. The light flickered across faces, some satisfied, some shocked. Dylan's phone finally lowered in defeat. "For 20 years, I said, addressing the room but looking at Roy. "This man stole my birthdays, made me believe I was worthless, taught me that family meant accepting abuse." I lifted the cake knife. "But tonight, I'm taking it all back." I cut a piece, placed it on a plate, held it up. "This cake is mine. This voice is mine. This story is mine to tell." Roy made one last desperate move, lunging forward to grab the cake, to destroy it like he had so many before. But Officer Morales was ready. The restraining motion turned into something else as she produced handcuffs with practiced efficiency. "Roy Bennett, you're under arrest for violation of a protection order, assault, and attempted destruction of property." The cuffs clicked closed as she continued reading rights. The room erupted. Dylan dropped his phone, scrambling toward his father. Mom collapsed in her chair, sobbing. The live stream viewer count hit 3,000. Someone started clapping Carlos, I think, and others joined until the sound filled the space. Through it all, I stood holding my piece of cake, finally able to take a bite of my own birthday dessert. It tasted like victory, like freedom, like 20 years of patient revenge served cold and sweet. "Happy birthday to me," I said, as police backup arrived to take Roy away. The cake knife caught the light as I cut another piece, this time for Mrs. Chin, then Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Ito, Carlos. Every person Roy had wronged got a piece of my birthday cake, a share in this moment of justice. Dylan stood frozen by his father's empty chair, phone forgotten on the floor, still recording the ceiling. For once, he had nothing to say. The hall emptied slowly, each person taking their slice of cake like communion, like sharing in something sacred. Roy was gone, processed at the station according to Officer Morales' text at 8:45 p.m. The live stream had ended with 12,000 views and climbing. Dylan had slunk out without his phone, leaving it recording the ceiling until the battery died, perhaps the first honest, unedited video he'd ever posted. Mom lingered by the door, purse clutched to her chest. "Maddie, Not tonight," I said, not unkindly. "We'll talk when you're ready to have a real conversation, when you can admit what you let happen." She nodded, tears fresh on her cheeks, and left quietly. For the first time in 20 years, she didn't have the last word. Paige and I cleaned up in comfortable silence, packing leftover cake for the seniors who'd struggled to attend. Mrs. Francetti hugged me before leaving, whispering, "Your strength gave them strength. Don't forget that." By 9:30 p.m., only Nate, Paige, and I remained in the empty hall. The projection screen had gone dark, the chairs pushed back against walls, but the ghost of what happened here still hummed in the air. "The story publishes tomorrow," Nate said, closing his laptop. "Full investigation, 3-part series. Roy's looking at federal charges for the financial crimes, state charges for assault and fraud. Conservative estimate 5 to 10 years. What about the victim's money? There's a good chance they'll recover most of it. FBI's freezing his assets tonight. The house, the boat, the trucks. Everything gets liquidated for restitution." I thought about Mom in that big house, soon to be sold. Part of me ached for her, the part that still remembered bedtime stories before Roy, birthday breakfasts when it was just us. But that woman had chosen her path every day for 20 years. Now she had to walk it. At the door, Nate shook my hand formally. "Reporter to source." Then he smiled. "You know, most people talk about revenge but never follow through. You actually did it. Legally. Brilliantly. Completely." "I had 20 years to plan," I said. "And really good teachers, Roy showed me exactly what not to become." After he left, Paige and I stood in the parking lot, Portland's eternal drizzle misting our faces. The community center's lights clicked off behind us, leaving us in the orange glow of street lamps. "So what now?" Paige asked. "You got your revenge, your justice, your birthday cake. What comes after that?" I thought about it. Really considered what life looked like without Roy's shadow looming over everything. Now I get to find out who Madison Clark really is. Not Roy's victim, not Lila's disappointing daughter, not the girl in Dylan's cruel videos, just me. And who's that? Someone who speaks up, someone who takes up space, someone who eats her whole damn birthday cake if she wants to. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had since I was 12. Someone who helps other people find their voices too. The next morning, I woke to hundreds of messages. The article had gone viral. Women sharing their own stories of family abuse, men describing childhoods under controlling fathers, teenagers asking how to document abuse, how to build cases, how to survive until they could escape. I started a blog that day, called it Taking Back Your Cake Part Revenge Guide, Part Survival Manual, Part Celebration of everyone who'd ever been told they didn't deserve their own celebrations. Within a week, it had 50,000 subscribers. Within a month, a publisher reached out about a book deal. Roy was sentenced to 8 years, eligible for parole in 5 with good behavior. Dylan, faced with conspiracy charges for the witness intimidation, pled down to community service and probation. His influencer career died overnight, turns out. Nobody wants to follow someone who films abuse for clicks. Mom sold the house, moved to a small apartment in Beaverton. We have coffee once a month now, carefully rebuilding something that might someday resemble a relationship. She's in therapy, finally facing what she enabled. It's slow work, but it's work she's doing. And me, I'm 32 years old, living in my own apartment, planning events that celebrate instead of diminish. Every year on my birthday, I buy the biggest cake I can find and invite anyone who needs to remember they deserve sweetness. Last year, 47 people came. This year, I've had to rent a bigger venue. I still have the cake knife from that night at Laurelhurst, cleaned and framed above my desk, a reminder that sometimes the sharpest revenge is simply refusing to shrink. Roy tried to make me small, forgettable, worthless. Instead, I became loud, memorable, powerful. The final footage from Dylan's abandoned phone showed something he never intended to capture me, standing alone in the empty hall after everyone left, finally blowing out my birthday candles. All 32 flames extinguished in one breath, smoke rising toward the ceiling like released ghosts. I made my wish. It already came true. This cake is mine. This voice is mine. This life is mine. And nobody will ever take them away again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your own experiences and reflections mean the world to me. Remember, your voice matters, your story matters, and you deserve every single candle on your cake.